Greetings, fellow artists. I am Irwin Peralta. Welcome to my channel. Thank you to my 100 subscribers. That's a big deal. I believe the hardest 100 is the first 100. So to celebrate, I'm going to give you guys a backlot tour behind the scenes of where I work and do my art and what it takes to get it set up. So let's go. First, I'd like to give credit to all the artists that came before that I have learned from, either through books or videos or very rarely in person. I'd like to give credit where credit is due, and hopefully I get to drop names and knowledge from people that I've learned as time goes by. This is some art that's on the shelf. I put it here to dry once I've completed it, and I get to look at it and see what I did right or what I did wrong, what I might change in the future, and it helps me to continue to improve as an artist just by seeing my work and having a reaction to it. This is my office where I do most of my work. I don't actually make a living currently as an artist. I do design for signs, like letters on buildings or the giant pylons or monuments that you see by the side of the road that let you know where things are. Just to give you some context, my office is right next to the kitchen. So that means that often people will come by and get a drink or start cooking and might interrupt whatever I'm doing, and it makes it a little difficult to live stream at the moment, but I might try to do that in the future, maybe later on at night. In these boxes are paintings that I've done in the past, mainly ACEOs, artist created editions and original. I would go to life drawing in person back when there was such a thing, and I would paint from the model and do a small, tiny baseball card size painting in about 5 to 20 minutes in oil. So I have boxes and boxes filled up with these little trading card sized paintings, and you can see that the cat is trying to free some of them. What I try to do is basically get the plane of the camera sensor parallel to the plane of the canvas. It's basically going to be over my shoulder with the zoom lens, so that's why I started to switch to the zoom lens. But to get it set up properly, I want to make sure that besides having the tripod position left or right, close to dead center as possible, I want to angle this up or down. So you basically want it where the bottom and the top are about even. Then I zoom it in, depress the shutter halfway to get it to lock on, and then I switch it from automatic to manual focus, so now the camera won't have to search for what to lock onto. It's just gonna always be focused on the surface of the panel. So as far as settings go, you want your shutter speed set to 60 in my case. Ideally you want it to be a multiple of the frame rate that you're gonna have. So if you're shooting in, say, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second would be double that. So the last thing is the ISO, or how sensitive the camera is to light. Now, the higher the number, the more sensitive to light it will be, but the more grainy the picture will be as well. So ideally, you want to turn down the ISO as much as possible without getting too dark, and take a picture, and that gives me a histogram. So with the histogram, I can see that I'm underexposed. I could get more light in. Now I don't want the panel to go to pure white and clip, because the panel shouldn't be that bright. It is white, but we don't want it to be pure white on the screen. So I'm going to adjust my ISO until it is higher up where I want it to be, and the blacks are not clipping, the lights are not clipping, so I'm fairly happy with that. Now, one thing I'm excited about is to use this easel in order to paint while standing up, which should be better for my health. as well as if I could get it where I don't have to set up and break down what I'm painting on, as well as the camera, getting the light where I want it every time. That would save me a lot of time and hassle. I'm going to build a wooden background. This new camera has clean HDMI out, so hopefully I can run it to the computer and use a capture card to record in OBS, which is a software that allows you to stream but also record. So if I can use that along with GoPro knockoff on the palette, then I can have a multi-camera setup that will be easier to record from without having to edit every 15 or so minutes together. The faster and easier it is to paint and just jump right in there, the more likely I am to not make excuses about painting. Okay, my desk has a nice little keyboard and mouse on a slide that goes in and out. And my desk came from IKEA. We like IKEA. It helped a lot when I was working and living in a small apartment in Denver. This is a scale that I use to weigh packages when I ship them off for Etsy. This is an old Wacom tablet. It is the old Intuos 4, over 10 years old. I don't use it too much. I mainly just use it for the Schoolism and ChewStream challenges. And here is my fancy Wacom tablet prop to lift my tablet up so I can get a better angle at it. It's several nice books and these little stands. This is what I use to film my channel trailer, and it was about 60 bucks off Amazon. I have it attached to a selfie stick, and the selfie stick is attached to the IKEA shelving with a clamp. So what that does is it allows me to pull this out so I can get it a lot closer. My current camera is a Pentax K50, the one that I've been using so far on all my videos. Also here is the Olympus Tough G something. This is an underwater camera that I bought for a trip, and I use it sometimes for my palette camera. So the thing about the Olympus and the Pentax is that they're not meant for video. They have a built-in recording limit of 15 to 20 minutes, and because I have to stop every 15 to 20 minutes and restart and to try to sync them up, I made these little note cards. So I'll actually hold up the note card to both cameras and then clap, and that will let me know where to sync it up in Adobe Premiere. Also, the camera does not last very long, so I have to have 3 batteries and charge one at the end so that I always have a fresh battery. You might be wondering what these blue dots are for. They are so I can easily line up this little table easel at the blue dots. And I've got a scrap piece of cardboard as a backing, and then I take my handy dandy panel. It's a linen prime panel. I take the plastic off, write the date on it at least, and then put it up to paint. Then I pull up my reference on the computer. This is my Sienna Pochade box. When I open it up, you can see my palette. I have titanium white, flake white, Windsor lemon, Indian yellow, permanent rose, bright red, phthalo turquoise, Windsor blue, green hue, ultramarine blue, a blacks that I mixed from the primaries, zinc white. So these are all the colors that I have, and I have them set up so that I have a cool and a warm of each of the primaries, and this allows me to mix a fairly wide range of colors. I have the extra whites because these two whites are not opaque like the titanium white. They let me lighten up the darks without making them too muddy or opaque. And I have two different whites that are transparent or semi-transparent because the zinc lets me mix with the blues, the cooler colors, and the flake lets me mix the warmer colors without causing them to shift to being too cool. Green brushes are the Winsor & Newton Lexington 2 brushes. These sort of tan beige brushes are the Robert Simmons Signet brushes. These aren't quite as used up as some of the other brushes that I had, but after I'm done with the painting and I clean the brushes off, I put them in this holder, and it allows me to keep them from getting bent up and transport them easily when I used to need to travel and put them in this backpack. Currently all the oil paints that I use are Winsor & Newton Artist Oil Colors. I have no affiliation with them or sponsorship. It's just what I ended up landing on. It was an upgrade from the student grade paints, which don't have as good of a pigment, and they seem to have more filler, so they don't flow as well and the colors are not as intense, and the colors mix differently than oil paints that have more pigmentation. So if you're going to learn how to oil paint and you're starting to work with color, I do suggest upgrading from the student grade to the artist grade, but whatever brand you end up with is up to you. This is just where I am right now, and I've gotten fairly used to it, so I haven't switched yet. The medium that I use is resin gel. It's non-toxic, and I like that. It helps me to make a longer brush stroke than normal, and it doesn't like thin the paint down as much as solvent. Speaking of solvent, I use these odorless terpenoid. At the end, when I clean my brushes, I use the terpenoid, but I also use the terpenoid natural. It really helps to clean the brushes, and it has a citrusy smell to it. So I put the solvent terpenoid into this little tin here, and I tend to carry it around in one of these old linseed oil containers. It's got a nice seal to it so it doesn't spill, and I keep my terpenoid natural to clean with in this Rilla Painter Mighty Might brush cleaner. So this also has a good seal, but it has a little metal container, and it's got little holes at the bottom, so as you move your brush back and forth, it really cleans it out, and then you stroke it along this metal bar to get the excess off. Now when it comes to paper towels, I prefer Viva paper towels. I was first introduced to them on a instructional video by Brian Nair. He is an excellent portrait artist and teacher as far as how to paint the portrait. So one thing that I started doing was I put this aluminum foil here to help me to angle the light properly to the camera, because if I have the light facing the camera too much, you can see that there is quite a bit of glare if it's just straight on to the panel. Once it gets wet with oil paint and medium, it will have a lot of glare to the camera. So a lot of people will say put it at a 45-degree angle, and that will cut down some of the glare. But what I like to do is actually have it perpendicular to the panel and the camera. So I will move this closer, and then I can rotate the light to where I feel that it's even on the side closer to the light and the side further from the light.
We have a guest. Yes, we do. This is our cat, Callie. She is a calico, and she likes to chew and scratch things. Hopefully no artwork will be harmed. Finally, let me introduce you to my new camera. the Sony A6400. This camera allows me to record continuously without a limit besides the memory card, which would be a great upgrade compared to the 15-minute time limit of my current camera. It also has a higher megapixel sensor that hopefully will allow me to create digital download printable files that people can buy off of Etsy and print the paintings themselves to be able to hang up in their home or their workplace. So with this camera, I have paired the Sigma 56mm f1.4 lens, which is a great lens for letting in a lot of light. It is a prime lens, which I am used to, but I do see that I will probably need a zoom lens. And the only thing I don't like about this lens so far is that there is a distortion around the edges of the lens. It does warp quite a bit like a fisheye lens. It's easy enough to correct when it comes to photos, but we'll have to see if it becomes a problem for video. This is what I will be shooting with in the future, and I have to put together my new studio setup.